meeting that you can that you think of, or something that you're not sure of. We're just going to have everybody not speak at this presentation. If there's just too many people, it's going to take forever. So we do have index cards at the front of the room by the door. If you have a question, write it down, put it in the envelope. Who you want to ask questions to, either me or Jesse Crane. You can put it in the envelope, and we'll answer all the questions at the end of the meeting. I'm going to do a brief, basically a timeline of what's happened since I've been on the board in January of 2025 up until today, and then I'm going to do a brief PowerPoint. It's kind of hard to read, so I'm going to just kind of move through it. It just kind of shows some of the proof of what we are discussing and describing on the things
There's $100.
That'll be in the PowerPoint.
What is your name?
And, like I said before, I'm just
Levins,
refraining
L-E-A.
speaking so that we can move through this as fast as
V-I-N-S,
possible.
V-I-N-S.
And my husband wanted me to make a note that a lot of people say, oh, the new people moving in the neighborhood, oh, the new kids on the block are trying to change things
Yeah, I've already given to the
to the
other
way
attorney
where they came
last
from.
month.
Well, that's not true at all. This is exactly the opposite. We moved here in September of 2021 because we loved exactly what it is. We don't want to change anything. We actually want to keep it the way it was intended since the 60s. When I joined the board, I found out that I became a new board member in January of 2025. I've been hearing some things back and forth between disgruntled property owners and board members, and I kind of wanted to find out for myself what was right, or what was true. I'm a truth.
Now, your address is over here, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because that
My
money,
first
if we
board
win,
meeting, I
we
was
refund
put
it
on
back to you,
a
money, we give it
code
back to you
committee
by your
with,
address.
I didn't want to be a part of that until, okay, I'll be on the key regulations.
win, and we will.
That way,
She'll find your address
make
over
sure
there,
that
and
property
we'll get
owners
a
have keys to the
letter,
parks, and
a
just
check.
not letting droves of Airbnbers come in on the weekends without their property owners. I was still under the impression that we were still a legally operating HOA. So I went full force, like a job. I met up with a short-term rental lady that lives across the street. We started having private meetings, little subcommittee meetings, trying to figure out how we could fairly grandfather in the short-term rentals that had already been operating in our neighborhood for decades. We were going to figure out if we were going to put a percentage cap on how many short-term rentals we were going to have in the neighborhood. We were kind of trying to come up with fair things that would represent everybody in the neighborhood. So when me and Stacy went to the board, we went to Terry Hester, Vonda, and Glenn Hunter that afternoon. We went to them and we told them kind of what our ideas were on how to make this fair. And they looked at Stacy and they said, we don't want any short-term rentals in our neighborhood. And she said, oh, I didn't realize we were trying to kick everybody out. I thought we were trying to come up with a negotiation. So within a couple of weeks, we got slapped with a cease and desist letter from the short-term rental attorney. I do have a little bit of that on the presentation. So the cease and desist order that came, it was delivered to the board, some of the board members and myself, in March of 2025, March 11th in fact. And it said, basically, you cannot mandate dues or stopples or put any regulations or deed restrictions on any properties in Three Rivers. It said all deed restrictions have been expired for a minimum of 30 years, like 3 decades. This was an eye-opener for me because I thought we were a legally operating HOA. So when I realized we didn't have any authority whatsoever, I was kind of shocked. But then I realized Jesse Crane was right about a lot of things, so I started finding out some truths here. I thought this was a shock to the board too. I thought that they didn't realize that they were illegally operating until I started seeing some of the things behind closed doors and the tactics they were going to go about trying to preserve their HOA.
I told them in January at that meeting. They knew in January 2025.
So hang on. So I'm going to back up a little bit. Back in 2020, a woman by the name of Rachel Butler had sent out a letter to all property owners that said your deed restrictions would have been expired had we not renewed them in 2020. So she sent out a letter to every property owner saying that everything's up to date, we're all good to go. Well, that letter was illegally filed. It was illegal even to say that we had preserved our deed restrictions because they had expired in 1992. So by preserving something that had already been expired, that was an illegal document that they had filed. And the woman that worked for the attorney's office was related to Glenn Hunter. It happened to be his niece. In April of 2025 to June of 2025, Glenn, Vonda, Terry, a lot of the members of the board started getting together and brainstorming on how they were going to convince 51% of the property owners to vote in their new HOA revitalization paperwork. I was under the impression that we needed 51% of every single parcel owner. That's how I still interpret the Florida statute. What they decided to do was condense down the 2,000 plus property owners down to about 58 of their friends, family members, and constituents, and they tried to get 51% of 58 people who had multiple lots, so that each person was counting multiple votes, and they just manipulated the vote. When I realized what they were doing, I told them I didn't want anything to do with it. They forced me to be on the organizing committee, and I told them 4 times, Kim can be my witness, she was there. I told them I do not want anything to do with this. This sounds unethical. It sounds borderline illegal. And I told the attorney, I want to know what Florida law are you following to let me know that this is legal. And he wouldn't respond to my answers. He wouldn't respond to any of my questions. Every time he would answer, he would change how he was saying things. And then I realized they weren't being truthful with me. So with that, I realized when the TREPO attorney refused to answer my questions, I realized I needed to seek out legal counsel. So sometime in July of last year, I hired my own attorney, and I told her what was going on and what the board was trying to do with this revitalization HOA. And I said, listen, I don't care what the answer is. I don't care if we are an HOA. I don't care if we aren't an HOA. I don't care if we have mandated dues. I don't care if we have voluntary dues. I just want to know what's legal, what's right. And she started going through some paperwork, and then she came back and she said that everything that the board was doing was invalid, that they were trying to revitalize documents that had no legal standing. Because basically, everything's been expired and invalid since 1962. So now we're looking not at 30 years, we're looking at 64 years that things haven't been done the right way. So that was a shock to me. Between July and August, I went to an August board meeting, and I was looking at the financial statements that Vicki, our treasurer, had given us, and it said that we had collected $11,000 in membership dues for the month of July. So when I asked the treasurer at the board meeting, why do we have $11,000 collected in membership dues when we only had 20-something members join in the last few months? And she said, well, most of those are estoppels. So if you don't know what an estoppel is, I didn't. I'm getting a crash course in HOAs, Florida statutes, and estoppels. Estoppels are where you get forced to pay dues when you try to sell your home, or when you try to buy into a home that's in an HOA if the other member who's selling their home didn't pay. So they were illegally collecting estoppels because they were given that cease and desist order in March of 2025 that said you are not allowed to mandate any dues or collect any assessments at all. So when I started sending emails to the board saying, why are we still collecting estoppels? I thought we were given a cease and desist order. They told me to stop sending them emails because they could be subpoenaed. So then I realized, okay, they continued to collect estoppels. So Vicki in the August meeting said they collected the majority of that was $11,000 in estoppels. When she realized that I caught her saying that, at the October members meeting, she got mad at me and she said, no, it wasn't $11,000, it was $1,300 in estoppels that we collected. Then 3 days later, at the October 14th board meeting, she changed her financials again and said, we only collected $800 in estoppels. So her financials changed throughout the few months. So the tactics on how they were gonna get 51%, I think I kind of already touched on that, but they decided to we already did the 51% of the 58 members. So a lot of people, I know this is your first time hearing this, but there's a packet that has to go to every parcel owner. And it basically says that you agree to the revitalization of all of the old deeds, documents, restrictions, bylaws, covenants, and then this gets mailed out to everybody, and you're supposed to sign whether you agree with it or not. Now, they didn't send that out to everybody. Again, they sent it out to only 58 of their friends. And all this was happening, they started sending all that stuff out on October 30th. Also in the month of October, right before we had our annual members meeting, two friends of mine, well, they became friends afterwards, I didn't know them before, but two friends of mine decided to hold a recall of all the board members at the annual members meeting on October 11th. So we held a very organized recall vote of all the board members. I was just assisting them with it, considering I was still on the board. I thought it was a little bit of a conflict, but I was just kind of overseeing them and making sure that what they were doing was fair and correct and equally, representing every member. And we had a lot of votes that voted him off the board. The board refused to hold the vote. The board refused to let the members hold the vote inside of Hotel Park at the members meeting. They put out a memo 10 days before the meeting saying they were going to refuse the recall vote before it even happened. And I also mentioned at that same members meeting, that's where Vicki said that the estoppels had gone down to 1,300 and then lowered it down again to 800. And the board refused the recall vote at the October 14th board meeting. They were presented with the packet, and they were presented with the amount of members that voted them out of office, and they looked and they said, nope, we don't want to look at it. So they were also mailed an official copy of all of the vote tallies and paperwork that they needed, and they refused to even sign for it at the post office. Late October, the members decided, okay, well, if they're not going to if they're not going to accept our first recall, we're just going to do a second recall of the board members. So they called for a special meeting. So a special meeting, you actually need more people to show up because you need a higher quorum. They were going to hold a second recall vote to try to appease the board and, do it again. The members asked to have the meeting on December 13th because it gave them enough time to send out the recall letters to the board of directors, which they need a 10-day deadline. And the members also wanted to amend the bylaws at this members meeting, at this special meeting. They wanted to amend the bylaws to take out the verbiage where it says we can place dues, we can place liens and foreclosures and estoppels. They wanted to take out all the parts where the board could actually come and take your home away from you. And they also wanted to put a cap on the amount that dues can be raised, because right now the board can raise the dues as they see fit. So if tomorrow they decide that they want to raise the dues to $1,000 a month, well, they can. There's nothing you can do about it. So when they realized that the members wanted to amend the bylaws, which were sitting in an attorney's office being looked at, the board decided to...
Your attorney or the corporate attorney?
My attorney.
Okay.
So, yeah. Tripo's attorney's not going to redo the bylaws, I can tell you that. So, or they would have already. So, they requested the meeting to be held on December 13th. Well, the board thought, okay, well, we're going to let you hold the meeting, and we're only going to give everybody 9 days in advance notice. And they held it on Thanksgiving weekend. They held it on Thanksgiving weekend, Saturday morning, when it was 30 degrees outside. So everybody showed up mad. 9 days did not give us time to mail out the recall letters that needed a 10-day notice. It didn't give us time to mail out the bylaw amendments that needed a 14-day notice to notify every property owner. So they sabotaged the recall. They sabotaged the amendments of the bylaws by the members. Only the members are allowed to amend the bylaws, not the board. So they didn't want anybody doing that either. So they took your right away from you to vote or to amend anything.
They lost the 1987 bylaws also.
Yes, according to what they told me. In November, in November, while they're trying to sabotage the meeting and they're doing all these things behind closed doors, starting on October 30th, Tripo's attorney had drafted up the revitalization packet. They started hand delivering and mailing out these packets to 58 of their friends. So it's probably why there's so many errors in it, is because they were hurrying to do things in secret and they messed up on a lot of the paperwork. And then if anybody in here, and you don't have to raise your hand, if you're one of the members who signed the revitalization packet, there's a reason why I invited you here. I was made aware that Vicki called it an indoctrination meeting that was held at the clubhouse. And if you don't know what the definition of indoctrination means, indoctrination means to teach someone to accept a particular set of beliefs or ideas without questioning them. It often implies a one-sided approach to education where critical thinking is discouraged. So Vicki was having these meetings at the clubhouse all throughout November, starting on November 5th, at these indoctrination meetings where people were coming in to sign these papers. I don't think anybody really understood what they were signing. I think they were told, and I'm only speculating here because I wasn't made aware of what they were telling people. I think they told people, hey, basically we have to do this, right? We have to protect our parks. We gotta be able to like control people who come in and out, which I agree. I'm all for borders, I'm for fences, I'm for regulation. I'm a rule follower. However, that's not what the board was doing. They were trying to tell people you have to sign these documents in order to get your key. And that's a lie. On November 14th, so within 2 weeks of them mailing out the packets to everybody and having their indoctrination meetings where people were signing, they mailed off the packets to Tallahassee, to the Department of Commerce on November 14th. So in late November, Jesse Crane had a court appearance with Judge Coberlin with a case he's been going against Tripo for many years now. And I heard the Tripo attorney, Peter Fox, tell the attorney on November 24th at the court meeting that I was watching on Zoom, he told the judge that we follow a Florida statute 608, which is an LLC, not a not-for-profit corporation and not an HOA. And he said that dues were voluntary and that we are a voluntary board. So I forwarded Fox the emails that, they told me to quit sending emails. Well, I had sent Fox and a few other attorneys and every single board member an email in early October, so an entire month before Fox is telling this judge something that is not true. I had already sent him an email and I re-forwarded it back to him so he could remember what I had told him. And I said, this board is illegally collecting estoppels and they're mandating dues, and they even have it mandated on their website. And I sent proof to them and I said, this needs to stop. We were given a cease and desist order back in March. He didn't answer my email. Apparently we got charged $300 for that email and he didn't even answer me because he realized that it was, he got caught. And so they just continued to collect estoppels, and I do have copies. So if anybody had an estoppel this year in 2025, I'd like a copy of it because we're collecting them. So he realized he was caught with that. In December of 2025, the board in the financials, we had $103,000. It was $102,900 and something. So close to $103,000 we have in our bank account. Tripo rolled that money over into January of 2026. The clubhouse got a $40,000 makeover, but they didn't put any work back into those parks. We know Midpoint Dock is a wreck. We know we've got crevices and washouts everywhere in every park. Every sign is rotten and fallen down. Every fence is rotten and fallen down. We've got barbed wire laying all over the ground. I've mentioned all of these things a billion times. They didn't put any money into the parks. They gave their clubhouse a facelift, and then they rolled over $103,000 of your mandated dues into January's bank account.
And
I
to
had
that
even asked in those
attorney
meetings, why are we rolling over so much money? We're a not-for-profit. This money needs to be going back into the parks, or people need to be reimbursed, or we need to lower the dues. They didn't want to hear it. In the January board meeting, the board looked at the members and said, the revitalization is done, and we do not support an HOA. And I know y'all were there because you asked. They looked at everybody in the face and they said, nope, revitalization's done, because I had asked about it. Nobody else knew what was going on. I asked about it out loud at a meeting. And they said, no, none of us support an HOA. That was in January. The February 10th meeting, we all show up. I show up with all my papers because I think I'm going into the board meeting. And Glenn Hunter is standing on the front porch, very low dim lights, and everybody's standing outside. And he looked at everybody in the parking lot and he said, none of y'all are coming in this building. None of y'all are members anymore. He said, the only members that belong to this association are the 50-something names on this piece of paper taped to the building. He said, if you want to become a member of this HOA again, you can sign our paperwork on March 28th, and you can become a member again into our new Revitalize. And they're calling it a voluntary POA because they're saying you can volunteer to sign up for it. But what they're not telling you is once you're in, you're never gonna get out. And what they did, of course, they're not gonna tell you what they did was illegal. So, yes, he said you and your property can sign back up into our HOA or our POA or whatever he wanted to call it. They put a tiny little notice on the clubhouse window that said, basically, the revitalization packets have been filed in Suwannee County and they've been filed in Columbia County, and they were approved by the state of Florida Department of Commerce, and this is your notice. And if you want to become a member, come to Key Day and pay. They won't allow anybody to pay online. They took the online option to pay off last summer. I don't know if anybody realized that. They won't allow anybody to write a check to them. If you wrote a check, there's a reason why they haven't cashed it. They want you to sign. So that notice on the clubhouse they taped in the dark was our 21-day countdown to file a petition. So luckily enough, I had already had an attorney who kind of knew what was going on, and I realized this was going to have to escalate. Jesse's attorney, he got a new one. And his attorney was ready to go with it also. So we were able to make the 21-day deadline. Mine actually went in on day 21. Jesse's went in a couple days before, but we were ready to go. So on March 26th, Jesse's petition got mailed off, and mine got, February 26th, and mine got mailed off on March 3rd. I'm gonna do a quick PowerPoint to help break it down. I'm gonna make it really quick because I know it's hot and Jesse still needs to talk. And I know this is a lot of information, but we just want to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. Again, if you have any questions during anything, please feel free to have somebody pass you down an index card, write down some questions, we'll answer everything at the end. Yeah, I was gonna do that at the meeting, but I'll do it now. I'm gonna do it now because this is very important. Like I said, if we have anybody in here who signed a revitalization packet that got mailed off to the state of Florida, we do have a sheet over here if you wanna sign up saying that you rescind your signature because you didn't know what they were doing. You didn't know they were gonna kick out 950 plus paying members and then not allow anybody else to join without holding your key ransom. I'm going to touch a little bit at the end of the PowerPoint. Jesse has a little bit more to say about what your signature means in a legal stance, because TREPO had you sign a document, and that document's illegal, and it can make you financially or legally responsible for what TREPO's been doing. So if you were unsure, or you were conned into, or you were lied to, or you were misinformed, or you just didn't know what you were signing, we're gonna absolutely give everybody the chance to rescind their signatures. We'll give it to Jesse's attorney. It'll get sent to the state of Florida, and we'll make sure your name's taken off of that packet.
And that was back in what month? You said that somebody may have signed these, what month? What
So
day
people, the first day that people started signing these packets was November 5th
of last year?
of November of 25. And the last day those packets were signed was November 14th of 2025. Those were mailed off to the state of Florida on November 14th, the last day they were signed. The state of Florida has 60 days to approve those signatures and the revitalization packet. The state of Florida isn't looking whether it's legal or not. The state of Florida doesn't care if there's errors on the paperwork. All they're looking for is that all the boxes are checked. Because TRIPO had put papers in everywhere, they made it look like all the boxes were checked. But all the documents that they supplied to the state of Florida are invalid and void. If you went to the tripoinc.org website, you can see both petitions that Jesse and I had filed with the attorneys and with the state of Florida, explaining to you exactly why every single form all the way back to 1962 is void and invalid. So it's a lot to read because my petition's 31 pages long, Jesse's petition's 26 pages long, but it explains to you exactly the timeline of every single form that they filed and why it's illegal. So, yeah, so that's that.
Sam, can I make just a statement, not a question?
Okay, one time, and then I'm not gonna.
I hope we'll do it. Please don't hurry. Now, I can't speak for them. You said I'd like to get through this, I know you all, not me, this is really important. I really appreciate the fact that you were on that board. You have great and I understand the part about, hey, we can't stop the meeting and do this. But I thought that was important because you said, I know you're all ready to go. I'm not.
I don't want to inconvenience anybody with all of this, but thank you for that. That means a lot. That means a lot. Because it's a lot of time. All right, Amanda, can you hit the lights? All right, I apologize for there being a lamp and dust in here. I had to borrow it from a friend of ours, so, and it may be a little hard to read, but we're gonna start here with March 11th. We're gonna backtrack where I started. March 11th is whenever we received the cease and desist letter. When I thought we were still operating as a legal HOA. Now, the portion on the left here is actually the cease and desist demand letter that the original attorney who Jesse ended up hiring from his law firm, where it says, it's very hard to see right here, but in this last little block, and this is on tripoinc.org website if you want to read it, it does say that basically you are not allowed to be mandating or collecting dues. And if you do, that we're going to use every, basic legal authority to stop you, which means you're going to go to court. Formal notice was sent asserting TRIPO could not enforce deed restrictions on property owners, mandate dues, collect assessments. Dues and collections of estoppels continued even after this notice was sent. I explained to you that this kind of stemmed from the meeting that I had with the short-term renter with certain members of the board. They wanted to ban the short-term rentals in the neighborhood. And because I'm assuming she took that information back to her short-term rental friends, and they hired the attorney who slapped a cease and desist onto TRIPO, saying that we were illegally operating for a minimum of 30 years. They were told to stop mandating dues, restrictions, and estoppels, and much more has come to light, and TRIPO hasn't been doing anything right for about 64 years. The board continued enforcement even after the notice. The formal demands submitted to stop mandating dues, collection of dues, and dues and estoppels were continued throughout 2025. There's proof of this here, because on October of 2025, which was several months after they got the cease and desist letter, they said dues were mandatory. We see where Charlie keeps misinforming members that dues are mandatory. 7 months after the cease and desist letter, I emailed the board and their attorneys multiple times throughout 2025, telling them to stop mandating estoppels and dues. Their response to me was to stop sending emails. In the July 2025 meeting, this is where I asked, it was actually the August meeting about the July financials. This is where I asked, why did we have $11,000 in membership dues when we only had 26 members that joined from May to July? Vicki, the treasurer, stated that the $11,000 in membership dues was mostly estoppels. 26 members, and this is just a little bit of math here, 26 members at full price of $175 would only equal $4,550. But I'm sure most of these members were prorated, so it should have been less than actual membership dues. If 26 members were paying full price at $175, that means approximately $6,478 would be estoppels, and $4,550 would have been the dues. So we'll play a little video here so you can hear cursor right here.
That's not just membership, that is also, the
So basically, Vonda's kind of correcting what Vicki has said about the prorated, the dues should have been less. Vicki admitted that most of that $11,000 was in estoppels. This is a little blurry here, but we can try. These are two financials. The one on the left is from July. The one on the right is from October. And this is where we're going to show over here on membership dues for the month of July. She wrote that we had $11,000 collected for the month of July. That totaled the entire year of $158,000. Then in the October 2025, she separated membership dues from estoppels, and she said that we only collected $800 in estoppels. I received 2 estoppels that people had to pay at closing after March of 2025, and it equaled over $800. So we know that the $800 is not a good estimate. Vicki realized what she said in the August meeting was illegal about collecting thousands of dollars in estoppels, so she lowered the number in October to only $800. And we need to understand that even collecting $1 in estoppels is illegal, because we were given a cease and desist order and they knew. Members united and asked for my help to hold a legal recall of the board of directors and officers at the annual members meeting. The board refused to acknowledge the request and claimed they lost 18 letters of recall that were mailed to the Trepo P.O. box. Trepo's attorney claimed that members were not allowed to vote at the members meeting due to a misspelling and the fact that Terry Hester had lost all the mail. And then right here, again, it's kind of hard to read, but at the bottom of the agenda for the members meeting, it says, I can't even read that. It basically says the request for the members to hold a recall vote will not be honored. Legal counsel will give an explanation why at the meeting. And he basically said we misspelled the corporation name, which he did too 5 times on the first page of his revitalization packet. But who's counting, right? Anyways, the board denied us to rent the pavilions. They didn't allow us to hold the recall. They sent out bad proxy forms to confuse other members. They didn't comply with the bylaw requirements, or we complied with the bylaw requirements by mailing out the letters. Terry Hester says she didn't receive 18 letters at the post office, but here we have proof where the 18 letters were sitting at the post office. We have the certified letter where the one copy was sent to the corporation, and then 18 individual letters were sent out to 18 individual board members. And you can see some of their names on there. You can see Terry Hester and Tommy Chambers. But they didn't receive anything.
Hey.
That was at the post office.
You gotta wait till the end.
Because it was sitting at the, just where, before you mail it off. But you can see where all the stamps are. We have the receipts. We were mailing these. Yeah, and when they were mailed to the post office box, and Terry Hester said that she didn't receive any of the 18 letters, we filed a police report. Police report was closed without any investigation. And we filed a report with the U.S. Postal Service, and nothing became of that either. Members held a recall vote at the members' meeting on October 11th, and here were the results. We had over 200 property owners vote to remove the board at the annual members' meeting. However, we only counted the paid members on the first round. This is only the paid members that we counted. 168 paid members voted. Out of the 168 votes, 132 to 149 members voted to remove the 16 board members. The minimum vote needed to remove a board member was 111, and only 86 votes were needed to remove the officers. We had well over the minimum needed, so any director on the left only needed 111 votes, and the least amount was 118, I believe. And then the officers only needed 86 votes, and they received 129, 128, 125, 100, you know. So, and then we had proxies, we had everything was done correctly. They refused to, and then Vicky wanted to say that the membership, this was a small majority of the membership that voted them out. And she's not very good at math. The board refused to acknowledge the recall vote. A valid recall vote was conducted by the membership. The board declined to formally recognize or certify the results. The board members knew they would have to go to court. The board knew that members would have to go to court with their own funds to challenge the recall. And rather than respecting the express will of the majority, the board remained in office despite clear opposition from the community. The board was hand-delivered on camera at the recall, the board was hand-delivered on camera the recall results at the October 14th board meeting. A certified mailed copy of the results with a return receipt signature required was sent to the corporation's P.O. box. The board ignored the results, knowing the members would have to challenge us in court with their own funds. And here's a letter of the packet that was mailed, certified with return receipt. They were supposed to sign for it. It was returned back to sender unsigned 3 months later. So by then we had even run out of time to challenge the recall. And then by then we also knew that we had to hire lawyers to fight the illegal revitalization attempts. So we had to figure out what was going to be more important, challenging the revitalization or challenging the recall, because it's too expensive. And Glenn just wants, he wants everybody to run out of money. After the annual members meeting, recall attempt was ignored. Members attempted to call a special meeting to amend the 1994 bylaws and hold another recall vote on December 13th. The members were attempting to remove the verbiage about mandating dues, liens, foreclosures, and the ability to raise dues indefinitely. The board sabotaged the meeting and called for it with only 9 days' notice on Thanksgiving weekend in freezing temperatures. The members needed a minimum of 14 days to post the bylaws to be amended before the special meeting, and needed the time to do so. This is proof that the board had zero intentions of making the bylaws less restrictive. If you believe that they would amend the bylaws after you sign into their illegal HOA, you are mistaken. Remember, only the members can amend the bylaws, not the board. So this was the actual letter that we sent on October 31st to ask for the special meeting on December 13th. And then they didn't email or call anybody. They just sent out a mass email to 1,500 people that said, show up on Thanksgiving weekend for a meeting that never could have even happened because we weren't given any time to produce the documents that we needed. There was a hyperlink to the bylaws in here, but we don't have internet access, so this is just a visual. Existing bylaws, the bylaws need to be reformed. Existing bylaws concentrate significant authority in the board, limited structural checks on enforcement and financial powers. Documents should prioritize transparency and members' protections. Amendments can only be made by a vote of the property owners. Members began working on amending the bylaws and attempting to hold a special meeting in December to put checks and balances on the board. The problem with the current bylaws is the board has illegal authorities that were added in 1994. The 1987 bylaws that were amended in 1994 have been conveniently lost and unrecorded. So these bylaws that we've been going by since 1994, apparently they were amended from a 1987 version. Nobody has a copy of that version, and we think that they illegally added in the mandatory memberships, the liens, and the foreclosures, the ability to foreclose on your home, charge you interest, charge you attorney fees, and charge you rent while they're closing on your home. And then the board actually has the right to bid on your home after they've liened you into foreclosure. So these are important. These are very important.
And you say those are illegal anyway, the whole thing's crooked right there?
Yes, everything needs to be redone. The concerns with this enforcement powers are significant and can put homeowners at risk of losing their property over unpaid dues. This is what they want you to sign into. If you recently signed the revitalization packet at your indoctrination meeting, you agreed that the board has the authority to raise dues indefinitely, can foreclose on your home, and then bid on your foreclosed home to add salt to the wound. Why would anybody give a group of people that much power over their homes? Article 6 in the bylaws currently reads, unpaid dues over 30 days will be charged interest at the highest rate provided, but not less than 12% compounded annually. A lien can be placed on your property for unpaid assessments or dues. The board may initiate foreclosure proceedings, and the board is authorized to bid on your property at foreclosure. It also states the board can raise dues as they see fit. For example, if the board can't afford to run their new corporation with only their 58 friends, they can raise dues to $1,000 a month, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Their 58 friends are gonna have to pay the dues, or they're gonna get foreclosed on. Case scenario, an elderly widow lives on the edge of Tutney. She lives on Social Security and fixed income. Dues are raised to $1,000 a month, or even $500 a month, to equal $6,000 or $12,000 a year. She can't afford to pay the dues, so she fails to pay. The board liens her home into foreclosure, charges her 12.5% interest, rent, and attorney fees as they bid on her property on the auction block. The board, according to the bylaws, Articles 6 and 7, has this authority. The board will get first notice of foreclosure. The corporation or certain land investors that may be on the board or their friends can pick and choose what land they decide to force into foreclosure and then reap the benefits of those poor members who can't pay. Now that's a case scenario. I'm not saying that's happening, but it could. Do you trust the current board on just their word alone? Article 7 grants the board enforcement powers, grants broad enforcement powers to the board. The board determines what constitutes a violation, 30 days notice period before escalation, authority to initiate legal action. Owner is responsible for attorney fees if violations are upheld. Charges may become liens on properties. Emergency powers allow immediate correction, and remedies are cumulative, as in they can get multiple actions allowed if you have multiple infractions. We don't really know what all of those violations could be. The problem with and I already mentioned this before, the problem with the 1994 bylaws is that they were made more restrictive by mandating membership dues and enforcing liens and estoppels. No one seems to know where the 1987 bylaws are. The corporation is required to keep all amendments made to any of their documents, and they have very poor record keeping.
No copies.
They didn't send any
They're
of
stolen.
the amendments to the state of Florida when they were trying to revitalize their packets. And if you look at the petitions online, you'll see where those things are listed. They're supposed to have sent in these 1987 amended bylaws, which probably didn't have mandated dues and probably didn't have lien and foreclosure.
They did not.
ability. And Leanne was around in the time, and she said they did not
I
have
was on the
that.
board and we had those copies.
She was on the board way back when. She has a lot of copies of everything, and she knows that they did not have the
I
authority
tried to bring
mandate
those
dues.
bylaws back to the 1987
Right.
in October, and they told me we lost them.
Right.
I had 10 other members, and we were having a
Okay,
special
Leanne.
meeting,
Leanne,
so
we know.
Okay.
That's why we're in a PowerPoint. We got you.
Yep.
We got you.
I'm on
So,
it, been on it.
Leanne's got the paperwork. She always provides the receipts. 1987 was amended in 1994 illegally to put all of these mandated dues in.
By the board, and only members can do it, and that board, that president, everybody quit,
Hang on, Leanne.
resigned.
Leanne,
And then that president got in there melding and did this.
Leanne, please be quiet. We gotta get through this. The problem with the 1994 bylaws is that they were made more restrictive. Oh, I understand all that. Okay. Ongoing revitalization disputes. The 1962 covenants and restrictions were filed improperly with no authority given to TREPO to enforce them. The 1990 covenants and restrictions were illegally amended and filed improperly. The 1994 bylaws were illegally amended. The 1987 bylaws are unavailable. The 2020 invalid, this should say preservation. The invalid 2020 preservation by Rachel Butler was also illegal. March 2025, we were made aware, or at least I was made aware that the last revitalization and all the other documents were invalid. In February of 2026, new revitalization was secretly being filed with both counties and the state of Florida. And the current effort is under active legal review to overturn this 2026 ruling with me and Jesse's petitions.
Hey, back up a second. Who's Rachel Butler?
Rachel Butler is Glenn Hunter's niece? Yes. So she worked for the law firm that, yes, actually. Everybody's related around here. For 64 years, they've been conducting business illegally while telling you that disgruntled neighbors, rabble-rousers, and swamp creatures are complaining about false accusations against them. Yes, they do. They actually call us swamp creatures. Riff-raff, rabble-rousers. I've been called all kinds of names here recently. The two petitions that were filed against their most recent illegal revitalization attempt proves that every document the board has been operating by is invalid. We need a fresh start. We need a complete do-over with a new honest board. Seeking a permanent injunction of the current board is the only way to remedy this. This is page 25 of one of the petitions that was sent in to the state and to TREPO's attorney. Again, it's proof that the board does whatever they want. The 1990 restrictions attempt to create a mandatory association with mandatory dues where no such association previously existed and where no such mandatory dues were previously owed as a condition. TREPO did not have the authority to amend the 1962 restrictions, nevertheless to create a mandatory association with mandatory dues. So for 64 years, they didn't have any authority to do any of this. These are the two letters. This is the one that was sent back in October. I'm sorry, it's a little blurry. I might be able to focus it a little bit. Let's go the other way. Is that a little bit better? Yeah, maybe that's it right there. Okay. 2020, October of 2020, Rachel Butler sent out this letter to Three Rivers property owners saying that all these plat numbers were re-recorded in Suwannee County and Columbia County and that all of your deed restrictions were good to go. Signed by Rachel Butler with this attorney law firm. Joe Nano had written Rachel Butler a letter that, I'm sorry this is blurry, but this is the only copy I had. Joe Nano wrote a letter to Rachel Butler asking her why she didn't include any of the plat map numbers that existed in Suwannee County. Those numbers right there are only for Columbia County that they recorded again improperly in Suwannee County. Rachel Butler answers her back and says, and I can't read this, it's tiny. Basically, she says that all of these numbers are the ones that are in Columbia and Suwannee County. So I said, let's backtrack a bit. In October 2020, the board attempted to re-record the 1990 deed restrictions in both counties, even though Suwannee plats were never identified in this letter. They re-recorded restrictions in 2020 that they believed had already expired in 1992. They got away with it for 5 years until March of 2025 when we received the cease and desist letter. Had I not been copied on that email, I don't think I would have been privy to any of this information. Rachel Butler, with Robinson, Kennan, and Kendron, was the author of the 2020 illegal recording letter. And Joe Nano questioned Rachel Butler about not including the proper plat maps for Suwannee County. Rachel incorrectly told Miss Nano that the Columbia County plat maps existed in Suwannee County. That's gaslighting at its finest. Speaking of gaslighting at its finest, here we see where Charlie Thompson updates the TREPO website on October 14th of 2020. He states that the deed restrictions were properly re-recorded in both counties. Even though the 1962 and the 1990 restrictions were not amended or recorded properly and had no legal authority and had already expired in 1992. You can't preserve a document that's already been expired. It has to be revitalized. Yeah, it's all expired. He's just saying there's more errors, but at this point it doesn't. There's so many errors we can't count them all. He just said the dates were wrong. Anyways, it's ridiculous. Apparently they didn't want your vote, as they only sent out 91 packets to less than 58 of their friends, family, and constituents. Do you feel that these 58 people represent you? There are 3,225 lots in Three Rivers. April counted them all. They collected and submitted 55 consents for Columbia County. They sent 18 consents for Suwannee County. That equals 73 total consent forms submitted, because they doubled up. Some people voted multiple times. There are multiple errors on the consent forms that invalidate a lot of them. There are approximately 1,911 parcel owners with 3,225 lots in both counties. Again, we counted them all.
How many lots?
We have 3,225 lots in Suwannee and Columbia County. And there's 1,911 parcel owners. I have one parcel, but I have 3 lots. That's why the numbers are different.
Yeah. We are the biggest association in Central Florida by far.
We're a corporation, we are not an association. Never have been, so all that is a lie.
Subdivision. We're the largest subdivision corporation.
I meant corporation.
We all know what we mean.
That was wrong, we're not an association ever.
They, okay. We did it, okay. Yet they only mailed out HOA, POA, whatever packets they want to call, in secret to 58 individuals. Most of these people are board members, friends, family, and paid members of TREPO. And this was the letter that, this was the cover letter of the revitalization packet that TREPO's attorney had hand-delivered and mailed out to everybody on October 30th. The copies of these revitalization packets are also on trepoinc.org. That was listed on your letter that we mailed to you. Does this seem like a fair representation of Three Rivers? I say no. If the board was honest, this should have gone to a majority vote of every parcel owner. They knew they couldn't get 51% majority, so they attempted a loophole. It's kind of blurry. What are they hiding? So this was a letter that my attorney sent to Fox, TREPO's attorney, and she sent it to the state of Florida back in December when she realized that they had mailed out the packets in November. This was the last paragraph of her letter that said, if you or your firm or TREPO takes any action to submit the currently circulating invalid, improper, and thus illegal revitalization packets to the Florida Department of Commerce, this letter serves to place you on notice that all available legal recourse and remedies will be pursued. Likewise, if your firm or TREPO attempts to keep property owners in Three Rivers Estates community located in Columbia and Suwannee counties from using the recreational community areas, the recreational and community area properties transferred to TREPO specifically and solely to be held for the benefits of all property owners in the developments known as Three Rivers Estates located in Columbia and Suwannee County, all available legal recourse and remedies will be pursued. If you have any questions regarding this letter, please contact me, Christine Fertile. Basically, the TREPO attorney was put on notice in December, and I just read everything out to you. So, yes, and so she sent that in December, so now, of course, what they do is they tell you, oh, after March 28th, if you don't sign our form, we're going to keep you out of all the parks that you have legal access, that you're supposed to have legal access to. At the February 2026 board meeting, and I heard that some people said board members were telling them, oh, we didn't lock anybody out of the February meeting. Well, somebody went and showed that video where we recorded it, and we also called the police department, and they had it recorded on their body camera that we were all locked out, and that they had taken our money and kicked out 950 voluntarily paying members, and took all of our money and told us we weren't members anymore, and refused to let us pay our dues for 2026. So this was the little, these were the two little notices that they placed on the clubhouse in the dark. And this February 10 notice started our 21 days to be able to file a petition with the state of Florida. And you wouldn't have known that unless you specifically went to Suwannee County and Columbia County Courthouse Public Records, pulled the documents, and then read page 34 where it said you only have 21 days to file a petition. So Jesse and I did that. We made sure Jesse could only file one for Columbia County because he lives in Columbia County. And I filed one for Columbia County because I live in Columbia County, but I got signatures from people who lived in Suwannee County so that their county would be included also. This is the current list on the right of all the members who they say, the only members of TREPO right now. And ironically enough, a lot of those people didn't sign the revitalization packet, but they're still considered a member. This is where the board actually revealed themselves. I had a friend who was kind of not really on the fence, but she was trying to give TREPO the benefit of the doubt on some certain things. And when she went to this meeting, when they kicked everybody out and they locked us out, and then they refused to open the door for the sheriff officer, she said when they did that proved to her that what they were doing was completely unethical and just terrible. It's just a terrible way to conduct business, especially to your neighbors in your community. I mean, we're neighbors. We're stuck together like that. At the February 26th board meeting, Glenn Hunter refused to let anyone in the clubhouse who didn't receive a revitalization packet and removed over 950 paying members from the 2025 membership list. The 2025 dues that they illegally mandated, remember, Charlie put that on the website, that dues were mandatory. And then they rolled over $103,000 of your dues into the 2026 bank account to spend at their leisure without your consent. The clubhouse notice states that you will have your membership and key rights restored once you choose to join. This notice also started the 21-day countdown to file a petition with the state to overturn their ruling. Fortunately, we had competent attorneys ready to go. February 10, we filed a police report, and we were all locked outside the building. This is just showing you where we actually filed it. That's also on the website if you want to read. And the video of the body camera footage is on there. It's kind of funny. The 6 or so members at the February 26th meeting, there was about 6 of them in the building. They couldn't even get their 50 friends to show up. And they put little Dollar General tablecloths all over the windows so we could see that they only had 6 friends. They locked themselves inside while members stood outside in the dark, upset and confused. The board even refused to open the door for the sheriff officer. That's shameless. They are shameless. I don't have the link because we're not hooked to Wi-Fi, but you can see the body camera footage on treepoinc.org. $102,912 on our bank statement here for December of 2025. It shows that we have $102,912 in our bank account. The new TREPO structure was established. The 102,000 plus membership dues was transferred over to the new TREPO members. Funds originated from dues paid by prior membership in good standing that we were told were mandatory. And no membership-wide vote or even approved the transfer of funds was presented to anybody. Here's the proof of the rollover. They hoarded your money and they didn't fix the parks. They paid themselves for services and only fixed up the clubhouse in 2025. They took our dues and kicked us out, all while holding our keys ransom until we agreed to their illegal documents. Property owners had 21 days to prepare a petition with the state of Florida and the State of Florida Department of Commerce. We had 60 petitioners sign one of the petitions that I did for both counties, and Mr. Crane signed his own petition, which is in a very enlightening read. I actually like yours better than mine. The petition may be heard in court. If you sign the petition, it's important that you appear. So anybody who came to my house or was over on the Swanee side and signed the petition for the court, it's very important that you stay current with your emails, check your phone. If I'm calling you, if I'm emailing you, you need to be present for whatever court, whenever the court comes up, because this is probably gonna go to court. And we're gonna pray for justice. Stay current, stay informed, stay tuned. Before you sign the Revitalization Association agreement, because we know key day is in 2 weeks, and everybody wants to know when they're gonna get their key. I wanna know when I'm gonna get my key too. And I'm not signing anything until this is final in court.
Is court before the key?
No, court's gonna take a
So
while.
nobody, just
Don't sign anything.
Don't go get a key.
Basically, and I can't tell you what to do, but I'm telling you, and I'm not an attorney, I'm just getting advice from one. I personally am not signing anything, and if I have to wait a year to get my key, that's what I'll do. I'd rather my dues go to the attorney to fight all this illegal stuff that they're doing, or, yes, wait until the final, I'm gonna advise, and I'm not an attorney, to wait until the final determination is issued by the court. Because the petition's been filed, nothing is finalized right now, it's sitting at the state of Florida. They have 60 days to review it. Then it's probably gonna get an administrative court hearing, and then we know it's gonna take probably a month or two to get a court date. So we're already looking at probably 4 months, I'm guessing, I don't know. I wish I could give you an answer. I don't like waiting and wondering either. Signing, a legal challenge is currently pending. Signing may subject your property into mandatory dues and enforcements or legal issues. I'm gonna embellish on with Jesse here. Once recorded, obligations may be difficult to reverse, and we all need to basically just wait until the final determination is issued by the court. We want you to stay informed on tripoinc.org. Make sure you take a picture of that, keep the piece of paper that has that on there. There's another website that's similar to that. It's not that, it's tripoinc.org. And you can read both the petitions that were uploaded on here. Can't really see it on here. Mine is part 1 of 3. You only really need to look at the first 30 pages or so. Jesse's is 26 pages long. You'll see his also. His was, you'll figure it out when you go to the page. Do you regret signing the revitalization? If we have any people in here who signed that packet that got mailed off, it's very important that you know by signing what we call MARTA, the Marketable Record Title Act revitalization packet, you may be implicated personally by Mr. Crane's attorney. Jesse will inform you of what this means next. I'm not trying to scare anybody. My full intentions are to make everyone aware of the legal issues that the board and their attorney have created, and the cloud that this revitalization has created over all of your neighbors' properties and land use rights. And we have a form up here if you wanted to send your signature. Thank you to all the neighbors who became friends. Your strength and support and solidarity carried us through very difficult times. Because of you, it was worth every effort, sacrifice, and every step along the way. And I wanted to give a special thank you to all my new friends that kept me sane, because there was a lot of tears. Thank you. If you want to donate to the attorneys, Jesse and I had 2 attorneys. They're working together. I'm probably going to cut mine loose after the petition is through with the court hearing. And then we'll probably focus everything on Jesse's attorney, because he's the one who's going to be going after bad acts and failing their fiduciary duties as a board. His attorney's going to be covering more things like that. I think we need to support him, but right now I do need money too, because my attorney just spent a lot of it doing that petition. So if you want to donate money to me, we're taking cash and checks at the back. You can also go to tripoinc.org, and there's a pay link on the website. You can pay online. Jesse's attorney is here. We also have the same information over there next to the hand. You can write a check to Anderson, Gibbons, and Fredericks, and just write in the memo in care of Jesse Crane. If you write a check to mine, you're just going to use the client code 107217. So, again, you can find that information on the website, or you can take a picture. And that is the conclusion of the PowerPoint. So I'm going to turn it over to Jesse. And thank you all for your attention.
So mine's probably gonna be real short, compared to everything else that has been said. But, the main takeaway, I feel like everybody, and this is just an opinion, I'm not a legal, by any means, but, from all the attorneys that everybody spoke to and hired, like Bonnie was mentioning, the only documents are the 1962s, and specifically the ones that give you the rights to the parks. Pretty much everything else after that is all illegal. So the main takeaway should be, they cannot restrict you from the parks. Okay, I've had a meeting with our head sheriff, Mr. Kitchens, and he said that he is not enforcing anything, and that he understands, he's got all the documents in hand. He said if they try to restrict you from the parks, we will simply remove the gates and locks, and he will make sure we aren't stopped. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because we do want to have locks and gates, only because the state park and all the people that, do try to invade our parks during the summer. Yes, that's both counties. And the only reason my attorney didn't file on the Suwannee County thing is because they filed that one so illegally in their petition, they didn't even include all the stuff that's required, and only 2 people signed that own property there on it, and you have to have 3 to revitalize anything in any of it, so y'all don't worry. As far as I can tell, everything that we've been told, y'all don't have anything to worry about in Suwannee at all anyway. But you guys do own those parks together, just like we do. You own our parks, you guys are supposed to be able to enjoy them unimpeded. You're supposed to be able to have recreation as you see fit. It's all supposed to be a voluntary thing. We are actually supposed to be a non-profit. So that's very important. A not-for-profit can have a taxable income and can do things with money and make money and all those kind of things. If you look at our original documents that are dated from the 60s that are legal, you'll see that we are a non-profit. That means we don't have to carry large insurance policies. There's very little liability for us. We don't have to, all the money that's spent, we can actually ask for volunteers and give tax write-offs. They are larger than the money that you would have spent to use. That includes materials, supplies. So if we wanted to have something done, something fixed. When I was membership secretary for several months, we signed about 700 members up. And I had almost 300 of those members check off the thing saying they're willing to donate time, money, materials, legal services. I put that rolling list to the board, and they told me that they don't do volunteers, and throw it out. So we can do all this volunteers. We have a wonderful neighborhood out here. You guys are all fantastic. Most of us are very good and friendly. And I told them, if they would have just been really nice and said, hey, let's all donate to try to keep this up, I think they'd have got more money than they ever believed. Ever believed on anything. We have great people, and for instance, one of my neighbor's house burned down. That very day, he had everything you could ever think of. Everything, personal effects, everything, just by letting like 30 people know that his house had burned down and needed some little bit of stuff. They even gave him some alcohol to drink. The main takeaway that I would like people to understand that my attorneys have told me, and that's both of my attorneys now, because Jeff is the one that I have the lawsuit for over 7 years now, and that is where the injunction is going to be. They've all said the same thing pretty much. Now, Jeff's not an association attorney, and that's why I had to hire the second one, because Jeff is a litigation attorney, because I have to sue them in order to get them to stop doing this. And that's what led them to what they've done now. So that's forced me to hire a second attorney to try to stop what they're doing now, because Jeff is not an association attorney. I think that's the main takeaways that I would like everybody to know.
Jesse, we used to run, I was on the board in 97 and 98. The president on my board, Mr. Gillard, is right over here. We ran it as a not-for-profit under 617 as a small charity. Back then, that made us exempt from the IRS, but you're only like now. 2 years ago, they said if you're going to run a not-for-profit small charity, $50,000 is all you can get. If you get over that, you can move up to a regular charity. But that's why we kept our dues low, and we always had volunteers, and we would never go over 50,000. Because the small charities, you don't even have to pay to register. So we need to go back to what we used to do and get our 1987 bylaws back.
Now, the only thing I don't agree with is that we need to get our 1962s and let everybody know that they're real. We're all owners. Nobody can restrict us. We don't need an association. We don't need a corporation that tells us what we can and can't do. no.
The corporation was made in 1980, Jesse.
No one infringing on anybody else, that's my. So, And most people feel the same way you do, I trust me. I'm gonna turn it over to Marty here, I think she's gonna answer a little bit of questions here.
Can I say just one thing? I feel like there's a lot of people in here who have chosen not to be members, not to pay dues. I just want to stress the point that what this board is doing now affects you just as well as it does anybody who's paid their dues.
And I'd like to thank Ms. Heiser, she was on the board as our treasurer, she did not understand the whole position, because she was never told what she was supposed to do. And she wasn't the bad part of the board back then, she was fantastic, she's actually one of the people that helped me at the very beginning, when nobody was willing to listen to anything I had to say.
We must, how much was in there?
40, and there's 40 for this one too.
Okay.
Where's
Yeah,
it going?
you have to keep track, honey.
Years ago,
That's 40.
even though it's money from everybody's pocket, this board wouldn't be doing what it is today.
And she grew up with a lot of these board members too, by the way,
I
so.
sure did. Let me tell you something, they're not looking out for me.
So we know we need to start, and Jesse said, I know they can't keep us out of the parks. We really don't wanna damage the fences, I'm not for destruction. If you get into the park, they can't keep you out. But we don't wanna damage the fences, we don't wanna damage any of the parks, because eventually we're gonna be the ones that are gonna have to fix it. So, and we do want a voluntary corporation, we still want people to patron the corporation. We need money, we're gonna need money to pay the insurance, we're gonna need money to fix the parks. We had 1,000 members paying willingly, that wasn't enough for Trevo. $175,000 wasn't enough for them. So they kicked everybody out. So in the future, moving forward, when we're able to get rid of this board, we want to form the corporation the proper way, voluntarily, but we still need everybody to be members. We need money, you know, so.
Well, that would just require everybody getting new keys, and, you know, if you really, I feel like until this is all resolved,
If they do try to lock us out, then we just, you know, I'm not talking damaging the gates and stuff, I'm talking about drilling the locks out, that's all. I'm not talking about tearing the fences down, I'm not, you know, just removing the locks from every time that we're, yeah.
All right, so we had a couple questions. Jesse has his staff, I have a staff. Real quick.
What was the total number of board members?
There's less than that now.
So there's 12 board members, and then there's 4 officers.
The article of corporation say that you have 5 members minimum and 25 maximum, so we have to go by the articles of corporation. Yes, minimum of 5, there's a minimum maximum. Well, you meant board members. Board members, I would say 10. We're gonna answer questions if anybody wants to hear them, but we all need some fresh air, I understand. All right, so we had a question that was emailed to me. It said Columbia County, this had to do with the petitions. On the petition, Schedule A identifies units 1 through 10 and 12 through 24 of Three Rivers Estates by plat books. Unit 1A and Unit 11 are listed on the graphic depiction of the affected parcel, but are not included in Schedule A. This is one of the errors that the attorney found with the revitalization packet. The question is, do you have any thoughts as to why TREPO intentionally excluded Unit 1A and Unit 11 from TREPO's 2026 revitalization packet? I can only speculate that it was either done as a complete oversight, or it was a mistake. Hey guys, if y'all can keep it down, because I gotta get through the stack of questions. I do want to answer every question. I think it might have been an oversight, maybe, that they left out units 1A and unit 11, but it could have been intentional. I have no idea of knowing. The other question is, doesn't the Trico Board's chairman and vice chairman both live and own properties within unit 1A? That's correct. Tommy Trammell and Glenn Hunter live in unit 1A, and they excluded their unit number from the legal description, which seems a little funny considering I'm in unit 11 and I saw immediately that my unit was left out. I don't know how they didn't see theirs was left out too. Accordingly, Trico intentionally excluded the properties in unit 1A and unit 11 from the 2026 revitalization package. Then the properties of the Trico Board's chairman and vice chairman are not subject to the new rules and regulations Trico is imposing on all the other Trico units in both Columbia and Suwannee County. My answer is possibly. I may it may also mean that anyone who signed a consent form from one of the missing units, that their vote doesn't count towards their 51%.
I have to, we have to.
So there's a lot of members that signed consent forms that live in multiple units that were left out of the packet. My attorney seems to think that those consent forms need to be thrown away. Accordingly, did the Trico's board chairman and vice chairman engage in any self-dealings? I said it appears that with all of the incorrect documents and filings, with knowing that it was done improperly, it shows that there is a breach of fiduciary duty. So there's no way I'm proving that, it's my opinion, but it wasn't done correctly, and they knew it wasn't done correctly. So I would say that's a breach of fiduciary duty and self-dealing. Statutes of House Bill 657, chances of it being passed. I don't know, and it really doesn't matter to us because the members have to vote to get this language of the new House bill to be able to dissolve your HOA. The members have to vote that into their paperwork. Good luck trying to get Trico to take any of your votes for anything. So that's my answer on House Bill 657.
It already passed the House, it has to go through the Senate and be signed by the governor, it already passed the House.
But it still has to go through a vote in the association, and we know that they don't like to hold votes. Question, can the lawyer create our own Trico members account and we can pay 2026 dues into it? We pay, but the questionable board has no control over it. Show support to use against them. I've thought about this. I'm not really sure. Right now, I think we need to probably put our dues towards the attorneys. Not, you know, and then we'll start fresh when we get them thrown out. I don't know. I mean, as far as the dues that were already paid to Trico, or from people paying a due amount to the attorneys? I think that if we have 1,000 people who are angry and they pay $175 to our attorney fees, I think that would be more than. But all I can do is ask everybody to donate, and if you end up paying for your dues in Trico, you're going to end up funding their attorneys to do more illegal dealings. So I don't really have an answer for putting dues in another bank account. I'm just trying to get through getting the petitions and getting to this meeting. So I'm going to put this in a separate pile to question. Question, county, short-term rental rules, Columbia and Suwannee. Well, we're not a real HOA, and we don't have any deed restriction in this neighborhood. So if you want to have a short-term rental in your house, you can do it, as long as it's within county code. I'm not familiar with county code and short-term rentals, but I'm sure Airbnb is. However, the law has always said on our bylaws, you're not supposed to be giving your key out to anybody unless you accompany them. So that's kind of where the whole short-term rental problems came from in the first place, was that people were selling their keys to renters every weekend, and we were starting to look like a vacation Disney World in our parks. So, but yeah, as far as renting your homes out, you can do whatever you want. We don't live in a deed restricted community. County setbacks. County 30 feet 10 feet on the sides, 100 feet, is 25 covenants. 3, covenant 4, exhibit A, 1 of 4, covenant 12, restriction, white Caucasian.
Bobby, that's mine.
Okay,
I just wanted to clarify the setbacks listed in the revitalization. When it comes to Three Rivers, it's 100 feet off the front property line, 15, 25 feet
Unless
off
you
the
s-
sideline, 30
none of their deed restrictions are
county.
valid, none. So you're gonna have to go by county code, yes. So Trepo, yeah, okay. Trepo's setbacks on their count, and then the 450 minimum square feet, I think Columbia County says 800 square feet, or 450, and then Trepo said 800. You're gonna go by the county codes, because we are not in a deed restricted community.
There was one more on
Okay.
two.
Um,
Very bottom, you're going on the 62 guidelines.
So a lot of people ask about the white Caucasian race, is that what you're talking about? So back before the Civil Rights Acts of 1964, anything before that, most deed restrictions in neighborhoods in the South said that they only allowed Caucasian race to be. After the title of the Civil Rights was passed in 1964, even if that was still listed in the deed restrictions, the Civil Rights Act made that invalid. So a lot of the paperwork still says that, but it's not valid. That's old stuff. Because the documents would have to be redone, refiled. It would be up to a responsible association to redo their stuff. Right. Yeah. A prudent association would redo it. Somebody said, what now? We need them out. I agree. We need them out, Jesse. Jesse, we need a permanent injunction. Can you sign this under duress? I'm not an attorney. I've heard a lot of people say this. What happens if I want to get my key and then I write next to my name, I'm signing under duress? I don't have a legal answer for that. Do you? I'm not signing. I don't have a legal answer for this. I'll put it in. Yeah, in order to sign, you're gonna have to pay them, and then you're gonna be in their corporation, and then funding to fight us, and then if God forbid they win, you're gonna be stuck, and you're never gonna be able to get out, and that's gonna go with your land. So when you sell your home, you're selling your home in an HOA, and the new buyer isn't gonna have an option. It's gonna be included in that, and they can raise dues as much as they want. Who has audited the Trepo books? I think the last time they said they did an audit was in 2020 by Mary Pergandy, God rest her soul. She was a member and she did the last audit. They were coming up with some type of financial statement that Glenn was trying to get together with the treasurer and another lady who decided to help. And no, there hasn't been an audit done. Okay, and then Jesse said they only audited back in 2020 the records that they gave Mary Pergandy, and they failed it by 95%. And he knows where the report's at. This was before I even lived here. Will the PowerPoint be posted online, or can we get a copy? I will absolutely post it online. We're also going to post a video link to this meeting online. Jesse's recording it. He has a YouTube page, but he still needs to change the name to it, especially since we linked the meeting and shared it, right? Yes, we're going to post this and the meeting on the website. How long do you think this process will take? We really hate to lose the vote round, but we will not sign an HOA. I'm going to say probably a minimum of 4 months. We'll probably have an answer in 2 to 4 months. Right, and they don't own the boat ramps, those are our boat ramps. So, and then he spoke with the sheriff, he said, so the property owners have full use according to the 1986 warranty deed. Just let's not damage the fences. Let's just not damage the fences. I'm not gonna tell anybody what to do there, but yes, those are our parks. They're not allowed to hold us out of them. And, do what you gotta do. Question, what's the next step? Our own group, modify the bylaws and elections. Yes, Jesse I'm gonna leave this with Jesse. Jesse's going for a permanent injunction. We may be put into a receivership by a judge. And then the judge would have the receivership hold an emergency, I'm still talking too fast, I'm sorry. Jesse's attorney is looking for a permanent injunction of the board to where they can't ever be members again, like done. And that the bank accounts will get closed. And I'm gonna let you know if you want that. It will be, yeah. I lost my train of thought. Oh, here it is. Yeah, we gotta be a little quiet too, because we got, I know we got a lot of people in here. When Jesse, because I'm gonna say when Jesse gets the board permanently injuncted, the receivership that the judge puts us in is gonna hold an emergency election where we'll have members run for board, and then by then, we're basically gonna start the corporation over the right way, correct? In a roundabout way? Okay, most likely. That's what we're trying to do.
Vicky's got a brand new truck.
Can all versions of the bylaws recorded be requested from the county or the state? Well, if they were recorded properly, you could probably find them, but the problem is nothing has been recorded properly. You can try to find what they have, but there's a lot of stuff that's missing. So, have our attorneys asked that all TREPO accounts be frozen until we settle in court? I'm gonna let Jesse do that one because he's working on that one. What is the name of the attorney and law firm representing you? I could not read it on the screen. My attorney is Christine Ertl, and she's with Fisher Tusey. Jesse's attorney is Jeremy Anderson with Anderson, Gibbons, and Fredericks. And that's also on trepoinc.org. Can the board require payment of current and past dues if we refuse to sign for the HOA? No. I understand right now everything is illegal. Yes, everything that they're doing is invalid, but if you don't sign, they can't require any payments from you. That's where they're getting away with the, oh, well, joining is voluntary, but they're not giving you your key that you're supposed to have anyway. So they're making it mandatory to get a key, and then once you sign in, then you're going to be locked into their dues, whatever they want to raise them to, and if they want to lien the property, because they don't like your yard. And that is all of my questions.
So the first question that I have here is, why isn't this all being filed as a class action lawsuit? So I have the two attorneys, and I didn't want to ask anybody and try to infringe on anybody else for payments of anything. I was going at this, nobody, I was never asking anybody for anything. So that's why it's not a class action lawsuit. And that's also why Bonnie's petition has more signers on it, is because, if something does go wrong, whoever joins that is going to be financially responsible as well as me. So I felt like it'd be better if I just took all that brunt for everybody and tried to make it work like it is. And it's worked so far. Since 2021, I've had the lawsuit against them. Since 2017, I've been asking for record requests. So it is a long, long time that this has been going on. We're very close to the end of this lawsuit. We're in the discovery process as of last month. And that's why that they are really doing all of this, to try to reach and grasp for the last thing they can possibly get you on, which would be you voluntarily signing your property over to them and giving them right to put the foreclosable liens on it, which is what they're trying to do right now. And that's one of the other questions here, is the two takeaway points. And that would be one of them, is if you sign their documents, please read them, because I've not seen them, so I can't refer to what they say. But I do know I was told by multiple people that said they had seen them, that it is going to say that you agree to all of those restrictions and covenants and all the new stuff, which gives them the right to raise the dues, like Bonnie said, to whatever they feel fit, and also put the liens on your property and make them foreclosable after the compounding interest and all that. So I would say definitely one of the takeaways should be, don't sign anything, because you don't have to. When you bought your property, you own the parts. It says it on your deed. It says right here on my shirt, 3 Rivers Estates. It doesn't say Trepo. Look on your deeds. Pull your deed out. Look at your recorded deed. If it says Trepo, please let me know, because there isn't any that does. So that would be the number one takeaway I would say from this all would be, you don't have to do anything. You already own the parks. Just don't let these people believe that they can extort money out of you guys anymore. Please, don't let them believe that. We don't need a board of directors.
We own the park, why can't a bunch of them just go down there and read it off?
We can.
A small charity like we have always done it.
So like Leanne's kind of saying, there's different opinions. I believe that, you know, if we refile as a nonprofit, nonprofits have a very small board of directors, and all those directors do is pay the monthly bills. And if members petition a bunch of stuff with letters, then they try to hold an election or a vote on what the members were asking for. So, you know, if we wanted to revitalize, you know, revamp the clubhouse, a member would put a request in and say, hey, I'm a member of this of this, whatever you want to call us. I just don't like to say what name we should put on it because we're a non-for-profit. We're really just a non-for-profit corporation. So, you know. That's an opinion. You're not, I hear you. Yes, ma'am, and you have that right. Everybody here has the right. We have a lot of questions, Leanne, please. When I'm done, listen, you can have the microphone when I'm done if everybody's okay, and you can say everything too. You're welcome to come speak after me, I promise. I'll give you that opportunity 100% as long as Bonnie's okay with that. It's her equipment, I'm 100%. And I don't disagree with 90% of what you say. Have our attorneys ask for all the TREPO accounts to be frozen until we settle in court. Why, yes. So that is actually the same question that our head sheriff asked me. And almost the only question he had was, why have you not already gotten a permanent injunction on these people? And I explained to him, you know, it takes a long time when they start lying in court and they say they're in a homeowners association, and then they say, no, we're a 617 corporation, and then they say, no, you know what, we're a 608. It makes it keep kicking the can down the road, and we got to refile and refile. We're on the third lawsuit that I had to refile again because they claimed that they weren't something else. So that's why it's taking so long. It's because they're good at kicking it down the road. You know, using our money to fight against us.
They run out of money, and they gotta use their address wrong.
So, the next question, what is the next step? Like I said, I believe the next step is really just don't do anything. Don't sign their stuff. If they lock the gates on the 29th, I personally promise you, I will remove the locks and I will drill them out. And I have every blessing from the sheriff. Now, I have not spoke to St. John, but Mr. Kitchens told me that he also has been having close meetings with Mr. St. John, and Mr. St. John understands all this and agrees with all this that he told me. Now, I have not spoke to him, didn't have time to get a meeting with him. When I went to Mr. Kitchens, it was like the same, like within 10 minutes of me getting to his secretary, he was like, oh, you're Jesse, coming in, I want to talk to you. So I didn't even know, I didn't have time to plan. So that's why I haven't went to Swanee yet, is because when I called them, they said, oh, it could be 2-3 weeks, we'll try to get you in there.
Yeah, you don't. I'd be there and see Sam anytime you want to.
What is,
Hang on, before we leave, anybody who wanted to sign to rescind their name, tell them they can come up here while you're reading questions.
yeah, she was just saying that if you signed, I don't think there's anybody here that did, but if you sign their petition, you are financially responsible just as well as they are. Because remember, like they said in court in November, they said that they were just volunteers, just like me and you right now are in this room. And so if you sign that revitalization, you are financially responsible for all of the attorney fees, all the court costs, and potentially way more than that. Because you got to realize they've been extorting money for a long time from these members, as far as my opinion is. When you force an estoppel on somebody at the closing of their property, I mean, what else do you call that? You know, so that money may potentially have to be paid back by the board members and the people that signed this revitalization that are the new members of this fictitious corporation. So
if anybody wants to
up
sign
here.
to have your name removed off the revitalization packet, meet me in the back. I'll come back there and we'll forward it on over to the attorneys and the state of Florida.
So the next question, and several of them, is about our bylaws and such. According to all the legal scholars that I've been speaking with, every one of them that has an association direct, learning, they have said the same exact things. We have no bylaws. They're all defunct. They're all no good. Nothing's ever been done right. The only thing is that those 60s documents that say you guys own the properties and that we can use them for recreation and whatever we see fit. You know, they tell me don't worry about bylaws are no good, covenants are no good, and they haven't been forever. There's never been a legal TREPO that had ties to your property. Never. Because like was explained, the original documents in 1980 actually referred to a revised document originally. And you can look in those if you have the 1980s. It says that this corporation is being filed with these revised documents. But if you never were in existence as a corporation, how could you file with revived documents? You have to be filing with original documents. And that's because they took Three Rivers Estates documents and said that they were reviving that and, you know, starting the corporation. So,
We don't care, not 1983 code, that's.
when I get done, I'll take some questions for sure. And I'm gonna let Leanne speak, I think, as long as everybody's okay with it. So yeah, this one is Charles Morris, and he says that there's nothing in his deed that says anything about an HOA or TREPO, and he's 100% correct.
Take that number there, and if you can't get hold of St. John's, call me, I'll get you.
I'll do it. I'm pretty good though. I'm the one that got the body cam footage. I'm the one that got all the reporters. I'm the one, you know. I'm just a guy that never graduated high school, man. I just get by with the way I learn stuff and how I can do it. Why are the certain parcels marked affected parcels on the petition against the HOA? I don't know why they filed certain things. One of the other things is, you know, when you make a claim to somebody's property, which is when you transfer your deed and title, right? On the legal documents, it gives the legal description of your property. So one of the things that my attorney filed on that theirs didn't, is that they attached lot, block, tract. Is that the legal description of anyone's property? Never. No, your legal description is very weird looking and hard to read. They didn't do that. There's just so many reasons. Over 1,400, my attorney found reasons of why that cannot be filed. Also, Mr. Anderson has worked for over 20 years as an association attorney, and he actually helped write a lot of this stuff for the Department of Revenue like 20 years ago when they started handing it to them to do this stuff. So he is very well versed. I will tell you that. And you can look him up, Anderson, Gibbons, and Fredericks, and Jeremy Anderson is the one. And like I said, another one of the attorneys in that firm, Mr. Hosey, also represents the people that filed the other cease and desist on top of that. And then Jefferson Braswell is my attorney for the litigation part of the civil suit that I have against the board members. And that's so you guys don't have to pay for anything, or if I sued the actual association itself, I would be suing all of you guys. And I'm not going to sue you guys. I mean, what did you guys do? All you guys have believed what they were telling you all these years. Right? Yeah. Modified bylaws. Hopefully we understand there are no bylaws. They all were not recorded correctly in the very beginning. That's my takeaway. And like I said, I'm not an attorney. This is just what attorneys just told me. None of this is supposed to be any kind of representation that I'm an attorney or giving you guys any legal advice. I'd like to put that out there. I know I said it once or twice already, but I don't want everybody to understand that. You can actually get in very big trouble for representing yourself as an attorney. So. There's another bylaw modification, so I think I just answered that one. Are the common areas, parks, part of the property we own? Yes. Look at your deed, and it should say on there that you are a property that lies in the unrecorded subdivision of Three Rivers Estates. That's what it says. Three Rivers Estates, like on my shirt right here, is on your deeds. So if TREPO was on your deeds, then TREPO could probably do this stuff legally, but it doesn't say TREPO. Like I said, if I was you guys, I'd definitely go look at my deed, and you can actually pull it up on the computer. There's this thing called the OCRS online, and that's the official court record system. You just put your name in there, first name and last name, and hit the search button, and it'll pull up all your records on your deeds and stuff. And you can go to also the property appraiser's website is another good place, and you can pull the actual copy of your deed up where it says that as well, if you don't have a copy of it yourself. So the under duress thing, I mean, anybody can do anything they want to do. I suggest that you just don't do anything. And when it comes time, you just go use the parks because you should have access to them. And if you don't, my number is literally all over. You are welcome to call me. I am very available. I answer all my phone calls. You can ask a lot of the people in this room because I know a lot of the faces that are still here. I'm very available. If you call me, I'll answer the phone. I'll try to answer what I know and what I've been told. So, no HOA, state of Florida is passing law. Like we said, yes, and that did go through the House. It did get passed by the House. I don't know about the Senate because it's next. And then, of course, our governor will have to sign into law. That's how the legislation works. And I have sent multiple, and I mean hundreds of letters. And if you think that all the association stuff has been changed over the last 5 years, just happens to be the same period that I've been doing all this stuff, you should probably think about it a little harder. If they are successful forming an HOA, now can it be reversed? A new board is elected. He put ejected. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't see how the Department of Revenue feels they can be successful, but keep in mind, my attorney didn't just send a letter to the board or file this petition. He also did the same thing that Bonnie's did and let the Department of Revenue know that they're going to also be sued if they don't repeal this. And then also in the letter, they were supposed to give to all of everybody that signed that thing. It also says that they need to repeal it themselves or else we're going to sue them as well. Department of Revenue does it first, they're going to get sued, the people that did this. If the people that did this do it, then of course they don't have a lawsuit anymore. I don't have a lawsuit anymore because they repealed it. They just pulled it off, and they can do that anytime they want. They can say, you know what, we were wrong. We're going to pull this out, take it out of the county records, and this is why, and they'll do it. And that's why she had that little sheet for y'all to sign if you did sign that revitalization stuff. How much money has been spent to fix the illegal board? I can only speak for myself. I've spent close to $70,000, but now that's been for 8 years, since 2017. So I can only speak for myself. I don't know about Bonnie. Not sure exactly how much she spent. And that's over a long period of time. I got 5 kids. I'm not a rich person. But, I managed to get by and pay the attorney's been really good too, where I can pay him smaller amounts and not, all at once, so. Yeah. And so that one is just the one where, like we keep saying, we really don't want anybody to be financially responsible for what this board has done. So we really just keep saying it over and over again. If you guys signed that revitalization thing and you didn't realize what was going on, or you did, and you just don't want to be financially responsible because the board didn't tell you that you were going to be, you should probably get with one of us and try to figure out how to get your name off that and sign some waiver forms saying that you would have to be repealed now and that you're not financially responsible because you do not agree with it and didn't realize it. So get with us. If you feel like you could have some sort of financial responsibility for what they've done, by all means, please let us know because there's no telling what could happen. So this says, has the board sold any of our parks? If you go back and look at the old plat maps from the original, back in the day, the 50s and the 60s, there was a lot more areas that were Three Rivers Estates that's on your deed. Now, we don't own those anymore. Some of it's Alachua Conservation Trust. So I don't know how to answer that question because I'm not an attorney, but I do know that before, we had a lot more properties than we got now. And I know in 2014, some of those went to Alachua Conservation Trust. So, I don't know how to answer that one because I'm not an attorney. So if you looked at the presentation and you took a picture of any of that, I'm not sure the exact number of it, but in the bylaws, which, like I said, these bylaws are no good, but we're going off their documents. In the bylaws, it says they're not allowed to sell any of our property without our approval. It says that very clearly. And this isn't just those original 60s documents. They have these bylaws attached, but not as bylaws. So it's actually in there too that says nobody can sell none of those parks without 100% of us saying it's okay. Not just a percentage of us, but 100% of us. We'd all have to sign saying, you know what, y'all can have my property, that's the park you're gonna sell. But technically they would supposed to be paying us money because we own those as shareholders. So I don't think that's anything they can ever do. But then again, these people are pretty slick. I'll say that.
So,
I'm gonna take a couple questions before, so go ahead, sir, what do you say?
Across from the park entrance, wasn't there some stores there, and they tore them down? Is that the lot number?
So, yeah, that one,
Right now.
yeah, that one lot, I think it's 1AAA. That one was one of the only lots in our subdivision. I know I just said it again. The area that we lay in, that was for legal use according to those older documents. Now, I haven't seen that in any of the real old documents, but so I don't know. But it's already been sold. That one actually, if you look at the deed on it, the 1AAA, it says that they are no longer part of our division, and that we can't impose anything on them. So they were smart and filed stuff legally a while back.
I understand what she's fighting for. I don't understand what you're fighting for.
So she said she doesn't understand what I'm fighting for. She understands what Bonnie's fighting for. So Bonnie got most of the real information from me, I think, and her attorney, who got half of their information from my attorney. So I believe that we're both fighting for the same thing. She might have a slightly different opinion because a lot of people do. So like I said, I know that my stance is, I think this is supposed to be a non-profit. It says it in those documents too. At the very top, it does say not-for-profit, but they changed that. At the bottom of it, it says non-profit. So I believe that we should still run it as a non-profit. I believe that we should all just volunteer to pay dues. I believe that we're actually going to get a lot more money that way, to believe it or not. And plus, like I said, if we're a non-profit, we can give tax write-offs. We don't even have to pay people cash. That's the great part about a non-profit.
So Jesse and I have two attorneys. I have Christine Ertl, he has Jeremy Anderson. He also has another attorney, Jeff Braswell, who's dealing with a totally different case that has nothing to do with the revitalization. My attorney is only dealing with the revitalization petition for Columbia and Suwannee County. Jesse's new attorney, Jeremy Anderson, is now working with my attorney. They've been talking, so two good brains is better than one. He also filed a petition for Columbia County to get this revitalization overturned. So we have two petitions that have been filed. Jesse's new attorney, Jeremy Anderson, is also doing another lawsuit for any bad acts that the board has committed during this time. This is also in conjunction with his other attorney, Jeff Braswell, and the criminal things that he's complaining of over the last several years. So Jeremy Anderson, Jesse's new attorney, is now going after everything that the board has done illegally in regards to this revitalization process. My attorney's not doing that. I'm not suing Tripo. I'm not suing anybody. I'm just trying to get this revitalization overturned, and then make the board say, oh, you're a voluntary association. Jesse's new attorney is going to say, we want the revitalization overturned, and we also want all of you, well, Jeremy or Jeff's getting the injunction. We also want all of you, Jesse's, also is going to get all of the board members permanently banned, freezing the accounts, and going after the board financially over all of the things. And now they do have insurance. The board has a $2 million insurance for any errors and bad acts that they commit. So we're not suing the membership dues. That's not coming out of there. So anything that gets collected is going to be coming out of that insurance policy, with the exception of the criminal acts and anybody who's making false claims to people's property. They'll be sued individually for that. So Jesse's attorney's handling more stuff than mine. I'm still in debt with the petition that she just did on mine, so I'm still actively taking collections. Like I said, after my petition is done and heard in court, I think we all need to focus our financial help to Jesse at that point, because he's the one who's really going after getting this board out of there and starting fresh.
How many people do you think would sign into this new HOA? We have, what, 58 and 10 now?
If I was guessing, I would probably say on March 28th, if people want to go get their key and they're really desperate, and I don't know how many key days they're going to do, I'd probably say less than 100.
Less than 100. So that would be a humongous deficit on them to fight with their attorney.
So we know that the dues went down to $89,000 from that $103,000 that they rolled over in December into January. I saw the financial statement for February. They were already down to $89,000 at the beginning of February. If we cut the head off of the snake, they're going to go broke. So we're telling everybody, do not pay your dues.
We as a whole are way better funded than they are.
There's more of us than there are of
We do
them.
not sign in, correct?
Correct. Correct. Yes. So we can fight this.
But as many of the old board members in a criminal thing, we have recourse to them personally, not on the board.
Right.
You know, if the guy does something.
And their insurance company won't cover that, because it only covers areas of emissions and not criminal stuff.
What do you got, Sherry?
On the CD, are they using the CD? Is the money held there? I mean, that's different.
So they never said what, you talking about the emergency reserve fund? I'm counting that $54,000 in emergency reserves as the total of that $89,000. So they have around $40,000 in their bank account, and they got around $50,000 in the reserve. It says the reserve can be used for emergencies. They never really wrote down in any policy. They can't tell me what emergencies stood for. I thought, is this just for hurricanes, or if the building burns down? They couldn't tell me, so they can use that money for whatever they want.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the one that Vicky said that she went and got a CD.
Yes.
For that money.
She put the reserve fund into a CD so that it would make interest. Yes. And they can technically use that money for whatever they want, even though they said it's for emergencies. If they go broke, I'm sure they're going to consider that an emergency.
Yeah. Yeah.
We started, right, we moved into the stuff in 24, okay? And we had to, look for the key according to, what we told our realtor. So we did, so that was in July, and then came January 25, we didn't know we had to do again so we could get the key. So one day we went in, somebody let us in, and then we couldn't get out, somebody had to let us out, that's what we found out. So we were given the number to the head of the board, and she said, oh, you can come by anytime. Yeah, but we were notified, we were not notified.
So the board isn't very good at mailing out information and keeping people abreast of what's happening. They really don't mail out. You should have received a newsletter at the end of the year letting you know that your dues were expiring in January, but the board fails to get things out on time.
My question is, it seems to be, initially, so, am I part of this stuff?
Oh, bless his heart.
You haven't signed anything. I didn't see your name written on anything, so you're good. Just don't sign anything. What you got? I'm sorry. I got 3 here. Okay, go first.
Real quick, on key day, on key day, is there any value in us showing up and trying to pay, get a key? They're gonna say no.
I would say, I'm going to go up there and try to pay for my key. I'm not signing anything, but I'm going to be there. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to give them my money to get a key. And when they say, I need you to sign, I'm going to say, I'm not signing anything. You should be ashamed of yourselves. And then I'm going to walk away. And if everybody goes in there and says, you should be ashamed of yourselves, I wonder how many times they'd like to hear that over and over and over.
You should have them on record refusing.
You can do that. That would be a good thing. Yeah, they're not going to take your money without getting you to sign that form. We got somebody over here. You absolutely go and ask and say, I sent my check in November and it's failed to clear the bank. I'd like my key. And they're going to say, well, here, sign here. And then you say, I'm not going to sign anything. You should be ashamed of yourselves. And then you can cancel your check.
I have a question, just in general. We've only been here 4 or 5 years. It seems there's a lot of secrecy and non-transparency, and it's much more than just the park. I've heard rumors of land banking for profit. Now, he says he's suing for criminal acts. Jesse, is your mind in that area as well? That these people have done this purposely so they can store and sell people's land?
Yes, it's a land.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I believe so. Like I said but many times, I am not an attorney or an investigator. There has been an FDLE investigation performed from like 2020 until 2023. It's a public record. But they stopped that because, believe it or not, the special investigator had conflicts of interest because his mother-in-law owns some property right there by some of the board members, and he goes and hangs out. So that's probably not going to be able to be used in my case. And I was kind of betting on it would be able to because it uncovered some clear criminal charges that could have been pressed. The problem was the two people that met the threshold for FDLE, because they have a threshold of like an amount of money and how many crimes you've committed and how severe, those two people actually passed away. And that was our treasurer and our chairman back then. Now, Glenn was still on the board. Glenn's been on the board for 20 years, and I'm not slandering anybody. I'm not saying Glenn did anything wrong. Don't take me wrong, because I'm not a slandering person. I was just letting you know what the FDLE says about that stuff.
Let me ask you, based on that question, can you see any other reason these people would be doing this to all of us?
So if you do the math, I was told, and this I will go to court if anybody subpoenas me. I was pulled, after the meeting, I was pulled to the side in like 2017, late 2017, after I'd questioned some stuff. I was pulled to the side by a bunch of these board members that are still board members right now, and they said, we know where you live. You live over on Texas Lane, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, I live over on Texas Lane. They're like, oh, well, you don't want no problems, and we don't want no problems. I'll tell you what, we'll just make you a board member. Why are you trying to listen to these rabble-rousers and stuff? I don't understand when you could just be part of us. There's nothing to see here, you know. And so that really made me go, what? That's like some mafia, crazy mafia stuff I seen in a movie one time. You know, so like that's when I really was like, started making record requests and started going to every single meeting. And before that, my really good friend Kevin Sullivan had also mentioned that there needed to be some, you know, investigations done because there was some stuff that went on embezzlement down in 2006, and that's around the same time that Glenn actually, you can start seeing him in the minutes that I have as well. So, and I promised him I was going to try to do what I could do.
Because there could be no other reason that they would fight so hard for something so corrupt and so foggy.
I forgot this part. Now, these are all statements that were made to me, so I can speak about it. Glenn asked me, how much would it be to make it to where these undesirable people would not be able to afford the dues? Would it be $500 a month? Would it be $600 a month? And I'm like, you mean a year? And he's like, no, I mean a month. It's a homeowners association. We're going to be monthly fees at some point. And I did the math on that, and at just 2,800 and I think 50 members, that's $17 million a year. You hear me? $17 million. Those parks are worth millions of dollars.
Something corrupt would fight for. That could be the only reason that I
It could totally be. It could totally be.
So I'm going to do a case scenario so that I'm not blaming anybody for doing anything that I don't have any proof of. But here's a case scenario. You sign into the HOA, they raise dues $1,000 a month. Are you ready? Okay. They raise dues, we'll say they raise dues $500 a month. So now you're obligated to pay $6,000 a year. You can't do that. You can't afford it. So they lien your property, they foreclose on it, they charge you rent, and then they bid on it at the auction block. So now they bought your property because they get first right and notice of foreclosure when they decide to selectively enforce things against people's homes. So if there's a land investment company or there's people on the board who invest in land, they can theoretically get an LLC and go around and start bidding on these properties that they're forcing liens and foreclosures on. That's a case scenario. The other case scenario is maybe they're trying to get a smaller amount of people in their membership and they're going to consider those voting members. And then they're going to go, oh, well, we want to sell Hodor Park to one of our friends who owns an LLC. And then they get the membership vote because they've conned all of their friends into voting for it. Maybe they split the proceeds. I don't know. These are all case scenarios that could happen. If they happen, we're all going to have to come together as a community and sue them again and tell them, no, you illegally sold our properties. They have proven that they can do whatever they want. It's up to us to lawyer up and fight them.
That's what they're doing by conquer and divide, by making each one of you responsible for your own suit if you want to survive.
Yes, so we have to stick together. Okay, I'm going to take 3 more questions, Because I got two with the raised hands, and then we're gonna start cleaning up, because I'm getting hot. Okay, what you got?
The question is, the person that goes, that structure that goes to leveling or a road,
The road grader, yes, that's county.
we don't pay separate, that's part of the.
That's part of the county. Apparently, the corporation has no maintenance over the roads. That's county road.
The other thing, I don't know if you're aware, but the bridge that goes from the park, from the state park.
Okay.
Onto our site, okay? Underneath, people that go to the park over there, they come through, okay? And they come into our section there, they make a mess, and we have no say-so.
Yep.
People live in there.
Unfortunately, you know.
No, they need to not meet, even if they go all the way to the crossroad with the other road.
Right.
Okay, yeah, and they make a mess,
Yeah.
because they stop, they eat and all that, make a mess, and they keep on going.
I know. I hate litter bugs too, but there's nothing I can do about that. Okay.
Suggestion, when we take over this thing, on our side, just put a drill fence.
So there's legal issues with fencing things off, but it's a great idea in theory, but there are rules to that, you know. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna take I'm taking these two questions, and I got one here, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. So, what you got?
I'm just wondering, since they're a nonprofit, are they tax exempt or parks?
So, I don't know exactly how their taxes have been done. I know that they weren't paying the IRS properly, and then they were told to pay the IRS back taxes. I'm not sure if that was ever done or not. So I don't know if they lost their tax exemption with the IRS. That's still a cloud of confusion for me, so I can't answer that question.
I would hate for the county to foreclose on the parks for taxes.
No, those parks belong to the property owners. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these back, and then when we form the corporation again, we're gonna pay the insurance and the taxes. The taxes are literally $300. They're stupid little. Like, I'll pay that if I have to.
That corporation's not going anywhere. We formed that in
Right,
1980.
right. We're gonna take it over. Yes, ma'am. I got one question. Hang on. I got one question, and then I've got a card, and that's it. Hang on, Leanne.
Some of us have multiple platted lots, not deeded, platted. If it's an HOA, we have to pay, is the proposed bylaws that we're gonna have to pay dues on every platted lot?
So it says you have a choice to pay on membership lots.
It's not an HOA.
And it's not an HOA. Everything's been, even the bylaws are illegal. So right now, there's not, but if you, everything's wrong. But if there is a problem that if you do sign into whatever they have created over here with their 50-something friends, I don't know if that's gonna stick or not. I don't think it's going to, but we're just telling everybody, don't join into that, because everything's illegal anyways, and so we just have to prove it. And then I'm gonna answer, it says, why don't we reconstitute Three Rivers Estates property? Well, we're gonna have to get an injunction on the board, and then we're gonna run the corporation the right way once we get control of the bank accounts. Do what? The day that they want you to come sign their forms and buy a key is gonna be March 28th at the clubhouse. And I'm sure, does anybody know what time that is? Probably in the morning. Was it 10 to 5? 10 to 5. I should know, because I'm gonna be out there protesting. All right, hey guys, thank you for spending your entire beautiful Saturday with us today. I hope this was informative. Get some candy, take some water.